so now I want to take this opportunity to tell you about our wonderful speaker today. She is a minister in the Science of Mind Church, is that correct? Science of Mind. And it's called Centers for Spiritual Living now. She is a transformational specialist and one of today's brightest and best loved inspirational teachers and leaders. She is a speaker, a coach, a singer, and multiple award-winning author of books, What Will Set You Free and Revealing Your Extraordinary Essence. Cynthia embodies the quote, "I am not what I have done, I am what I have overcome." Yeah. Cynthia has facilitated hundreds of workshops, seminars, and been the keynote speaker in lots of different places. Just to name a few, the Omega Institute, the Celebrate Your Life events that happen every year, and Woman Arising. There's many, many more. We would be here for probably 30 minutes to read her whole resume, so I'm being a bit brief, but she's been an amazing speaker all over everywhere. Her most recent programs and tools include Advanced Awareness Coaching and Affirmative Living, which includes a meditation CD, passages, and an app for iPhones and Androids. It's called 100 Days of Affirmative Living. It's in both English and Spanish. Cynthia was once a working Hollywood actress and appeared in the movie Sacred Journey of the Heart. She facilitates the message of her award-winning book, What Will Set You Free, worldwide, and as a workshop for women in prisons. For that, I thank you. That is awesome. Yeah. Internationally, she has led workshops in England, Switzerland, and Ireland, and she has led a myriad of pilgrimages of various spiritual locations, France, Peru, and Italy. In 2012, Cynthia created and facilitated the internationally successful Venus Transit University, reaching over 8,000 people. She holds 2 master's degrees, one in consciousness studies from the Holmes Institute, and the second one is in spiritual psychology from the University of Santa Monica. Please help me give a warm unity welcome to Cynthia James.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful to Reverend Howard and Diane for hosting me. What I know is when you get invited onto someone else's platform, it's because they trust you with their family. And so I'm very grateful to be here. My topic today is self-care is a spiritual practice. And what I mean by that is that by our investment in our spiritual life, our self-care, we raise the vibration of us for our own lives, for our families, our communities, and the world at large. So I'd like to start by asking how many of you are great with self-care? 10. Great. It's really great. This is important to me, and I will tell you about that in a few moments, but what I want you to know is that I talk about self-care and choosing ourselves as a spiritual practice because that's how we get to spiritual mastery, by understanding that everything starts here. And once you get that, then it all flows out. It's not something you get out there. The other reason I speak about it is because it creates a space of freedom from discord. The word discord, the C-O-R in that word, is from the French, and it says connection to heart. That's important because what heart math tells us is that the heart is intelligent. It's the first place you can measure in an embryo. It informs the brain, not the other way around. So if you are connected to your heart, then there's not a lot of room for division and limitation and disconnect. I would love to tell you that I've always been into this topic, but that's not true. 5 years ago, I was almost 40 pounds heavier than I am now. I come from a family, 5 generations of women who've been abused and traumatized and left the planet ill, depressed, and overweight. And I'm watching myself go down this same path. But I just want you to know, when you pray, really God listens. It may not come in the form in which you are desiring. Carl Jung says, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to be. So 5 years ago, I am an associate minister at Mile High Church in Denver. You know, it's a very large community. I feel very blessed. You know, Roger asked me to come there right out of ministerial school, and everything was rocking. I was so happy. Now, I also come from the line of thinking that what you do validates you, right? That's how you get love. That's how you get support. That's how you get honored. And does anybody else in here relate to this? I'm just saying. Okay, just thought I'd ask. And so I always worked hard. And it was kind of like a badge of honor. You know, I work hard. I'm a person of excellence, right? And some of you may not know this, but church isn't just about Sundays. You spend a lot of time when you're on staff at a church. And so I had a huge ministry and a huge portfolio, and I was working all the time. I was teaching, I was speaking, and everything was great. And I was getting tired. But I've always been kind of, they said Farrellyn is an Energizer bunny. We're from the same tribe. I'm doing, going, and I don't need a lot of sleep, but I'm getting tired, and I can't seem to push through. And my husband says, well, maybe you should pay attention to this. I go, no, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I'm going to pray, right? And so it doesn't get better. So I decided to go to the doctor and have a checkup. And he comes back into the room after I come back from my tests, and he puts down this piece of paper, and he says, see that number? And I go, yeah. I said, what is it? He says, it says your adrenals are about to fail. Exactly. I'm like, so what do we do? He said, quit your job. I go, I can't quit my job. I'm a minister. And he was like, quit your job, quit your life. I was like, wow. He said, listen, if you don't stop what you're doing, you're close to Addison's disease. I'm like, what does that mean? He said, medication for the rest of your life, you will not be happy. So I decide I'm going to go talk to Roger, the senior minister. I say, Roger, I need to cut back a little. I said, just until I get over this thing, and I show him the letter and all this stuff. He goes, So the next day we have a staff meeting, and at the staff meeting he says, I want you to come to my office when we're complete here. I said, okay. So I go into the office, and he said, you need to take a sabbatical. I go, Roger, I don't need a sabbatical. He said, you are playing with fire. So I go on this sabbatical for 3 months. First thing I learned was I didn't really know how to be still. I knew how to pray and meditate, do my spiritual practice in the morning and, in the evening, but I didn't know how to be still. I didn't know how to do nothing. And when you're on sabbatical and your adrenals are like out of whack, time to get still. So I want to share with you today the 3 things I learned. First thing I learned was you are not your history. It does not define you. All that stuff I went through, all the violence and all the drama and all the trauma that I went through, my biological father was an alcoholic, my stepfather was a pedophile and a wife beater and beat my mother, even into her 7th month of pregnancy until my uncle came and rescued us because she didn't think she could get out. She didn't think she had options. And what I realized is that even though I was in total resistance to that mentality in my family, I have become it. Ew. So I'm looking at the fact that I've got to do something different. So I changed my diet. I started working out. I expanded my spiritual practice. Now, this is what I want to tell you. When you are in your stuff, not the time to do less spiritual practice, time to do more. So I really dove deep into it because I realized I had to look at that stuff I judged in other people that was living in me. Okay, can I hear amen here? I'm just saying. So I had to do that, and I had to like come face to face with it. Because if I was going to change, if I was going to heal, then it had to be better. I had to move away from my history and create a different future for myself. Which taught me the second thing that I wanted to share with you. It's like, why are we here? Now, we all know that we're spiritual beings. You know, in fact, I'm really clear that we're all magnificent. We're all unique expressions of the divine. We're all here to do magnificent things. We are all here to do something in a way that no one else can do. Some of us forget that because we get in the muck and the mire of what's going on in life. But the truth is, that's why we're here. And so I go back to work, and I'm happy. I love to talk. I love to teach. I loved working with the women and the music and all the things that I was doing at Mile High. But I'm getting uncomfortable. And I keep getting this nudge that I'm to do something different. But I hate to admit this, but I argue with God. I'm like, no, like, you cannot be telling me that. Because I'm happy here. And my husband said, have you noticed you're in a little resistance? No. Why would God bring me here and then tell me to leave? And by the way, what would I do when I left? But it kept bugging me. It kept pushing me and pulling me. And you know, the more you resist, have you noticed the more uncomfortable you get? And I didn't want God to sit me down, which was kind of what happened with the adrenals. So I said, well, maybe I should pay attention and journal. And so I'm in this process. And Mile High does these amazing candlelight services at the Christmas holidays, right? There was like 7 of them. What I noticed was, and this is my 11th year, that every time I would walk on the stage for a service, I would get more tight in my body. I am aware that there's a mind-body connection, but I just kept thinking it would pass. When I get to the last service, the 7th service, I walk off the stage, and as I get into the back, behind the curtain, you know, God talks to me out loud. I don't tell a lot of people that, but that's what happens. And God said, you are done here. I'm like, no! I start crying. I was so glad nobody was there because they really would have thought I was odd. And so I go home. And for the next week, we're off, and I'm praying and I'm meditating. I go, this cannot be it. This cannot be it. But it's like, you are done here. And I said, okay, what am I supposed to do? And it says, get an office. Why would I get an office? I have an office. Quiet. But it's so intense that by the time January rolls around, I make an appointment and I go in to see Roger. And I say, Roger, I need an exit strategy. He goes, what? I go, yeah, I need to leave here in 6 months. Where are you going? I don't know. What are you going to do? I don't know. Are you going to another church? No. Are you starting a church? No. Well, what are you going to do? I don't know. Are you crazy? Yes. And so, 6 months, I'm out, and it keeps saying, get an office, get an office. So 2 of the practitioners at Mile High were getting an office. They needed a 3rd person. So I sign up for this office. I just want y'all to know, I have no clients. And I remember Joel Goldsmith got in office and prayed and meditated for a long time, and all these people came, and I'm like, let's just hoping that this is going to happen for me. Sure enough, 4 people show up, enough to pay my rent. But this is what I want you to know. When you listen, God shows up in ways that way beyond what you can think about or imagine in the moment. All of a sudden, I start getting invitations to speak all over the world. I start getting opportunities to go to workshops and facilitate in places I couldn't have imagined. My pilgrimages all of a sudden started filling up. I get invited to do a workshop and take people to walk the labyrinth and chart. I mean, it was amazing. Coaching clients come out of everywhere. And I'm like, whoa, this stuff really works. But this is what's incredible. God also said, you need to get professional about this stuff. And so I hired a social media person to see how many people followed me. A lot of people followed me, and the majority of them were women. And so I started doing a lot of work with women because first of all, I'm passionate about women. I think it's our time. But the other part is, oh, thank you. is that I was discovering through all of my clients that we really didn't know how to take care of ourselves. We didn't know how to honor ourselves. We were conditioned to put everybody else first and then get to us. I love the amen corner. So it said, write a book. And so my latest book is called I Choose Me. And at my women's conference last January, I asked the women in the conference, there were 150 women in the room, I said, if you're willing to be a book champion for me, would you support? So a lot of them stood up. They created events for me all over this country. We were in 12 cities. I spoke at businesses. I spoke at book signing places. People hosted me. It was just incredible. But this is what I want you to know. That book, I had never been on tour. I had never known really how to do anything to make anything a bestseller. I had won awards, but not bestseller. Within 3 weeks of my book launching, I was #1 bestseller in 3 categories on Amazon. And it continued to happen again throughout the entire summer. I just want y'all to know God, that's grace, because I was clueless. So what's important here is that I started listening to why I'm here, because I kept saying, you're to touch the masses. Like, what the heck does that mean? And as much as I loved Mile High and love Mile High, because I still do special ministry there, I was being asked to step out. Some of you are being asked to step out. Some of you are being asked to play bigger. Some of you are being asked to bring your voice to the world. Some of you are being asked to stand up and tell your truth even if you're scared. Right? Yes? So I want to tell you what Alan Cohen says. Scared and sacred are spelled with the same letters. Awfulness proceeds from the same root as awesome. Terrify and terrific. Every negative experience holds the seed of transformation. If you're not scared, it's too little. I'll let that sink in. Why would Spirit put you here and ask you to shrink? Why would Spirit put you here and ask you to play small? But you must learn to take care of yourself first. You must learn to honor yourself first, to lift yourself up first. Then you can bring other people in. Otherwise, you're just depleted and overwhelmed. So here's the third thing I learned. I'm a co-creator with Spirit. We are co-creators with Spirit. You know, the interesting thing about God is it's always creating, always expanding, evolution. And we are emanations of that energy, so we must be the same. We must be able to create and do the same thing, right? So last year at the same conference with women, I was asking the women in the audience, would you please create a plan? You can dream all day long, but you have to put stuff in action. So what was their plans and what were they going to do? So the next day I said, okay, who has a plan? And this woman jumps up. She goes, I do. I said, great, what's your plan? She goes, I'm going to write a book, a novel. Great. Have you started? Yes, I have. How many words have you written? 1,400. That's about 5 pages. Because a novel is like 50,000 to 100,000, right? I said, okay, what's the plan? I'm going to write every Saturday. I said, are you planning on finishing the book in this life? She said, yes. I said, come up here. So then she was like, oh, I'm in front of people, right? I said, if you're a writer, you got to write. If you're a teacher, you got to teach. If you're a singer, you got to sing. Are you willing to write? Yes. How about 500 words a day? That's not a lot. So she kind of looked around like this, and then she said, okay, I can do that. I said, great. So right after that, she signed up for my online mastermind program for women, and she signed up to take a speaker's class with me. So cut to last weekend, which was the women's conference, she comes back. Now, every year, we invite 3 people who are in the mastermind to be on the stage to speak, but they have to apply, and they have to send a video, and they have to do a lot of stuff. Well, she got accepted. She got on that stage. She was glowing. She was beautiful. She's an accountant. Her business has exploded. She's hired staff. She has 41,563 words written. And she was telling everybody in the audience, you have to move. You have to take action. You have to do something rather than think it and talk about it. And you have to be surrounded by people who will lift you up, not pull you down. Right? And some of you are going through stuff right now. I get that. But this is what Rumi says. Sorrow prepares you for joy. It violently sweeps everything out of your house so that new joy can find space to enter. It shakes the yellow leaves from the bough of your heart so that fresh green leaves can grow in their place. It pulls up the rotten roots so that the new roots hidden beneath have room to grow. Whatever sorrow shakes from your heart, far better things will take its place. And this is what Eckhart Tolle says. You are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold. That is how important you are. You are blessed, and you are a blessing. I'm going to invite you to uncross your legs in this moment. Sit up in your seats. Connect to the heart. Breathe into the heart. You're the answer to the questions you're asking. Light and love live within you. And so I'm going to ask you to just breathe that in. And I'm going to ask you internally to just repeat after me, I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am powerful. I am exquisite and extraordinary. I choose to love me. I choose to care for me. I choose to honor me. I choose to put myself first. I choose to listen to my divine wisdom. I choose love. I choose peace. I choose grace. I choose me. So I'm going to invite you in this moment to just get still and join me in prayer. Because I know that right here where we are, something beautiful is occurring. There's a soul remembrance that the divine is revealing itself in every moment. That powerful one life, one consciousness, that wisdom that is eternal, is flowing is the very life that we are living individually and collectively. And so we just open in this moment, surrendering to the fact that now is the time. Now is the time to move into spiritual mastery by self-care, to use it as a spiritual practice, to open, to listen deeply and profoundly as Spirit tells us what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. So we just give thanks that we are blessed and that we are a blessing. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. And so we open in this moment to understanding that God is real, that everything that has ever happened to us is just information and energy. What we choose to know is that God is real. What we choose to know is that that infinite presence is flowing and wants to flow through us. There is nothing opposing God, so there is nothing opposing us. We stand in the awareness that God's grace is our sufficiency right here, right now. And so individually and collectively, we do understand that where two or more gathered, there is great power. This community is a place where we can gather, we can grow, we can expand, we can be touched. So there is no diagnosis, no challenge anywhere that can move us out of the knowing that we are healed, whole, perfect, right here, right now, where we are. So we claim that. We know it is good, we know it is very good, and so I'm grateful. I'm grateful to speak this word. I'm grateful that there is something beautiful occurring in this room beyond what we know. But it is all God. It is all God. It is all God. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. 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 And so it is, and so it is. Amen. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say